There's a silent power in knowing when to walk away. If someone stops valuing you, don't plead, don't chase, just step back. Their reaction will tell you everything. People don't lose interest. They only realize they no longer need you. The same person who once prioritized you, laughed at your jokes, and made time for you now suddenly gets too busy. They didn't change, you were just no longer convenient. And here's a truth most won't admit. Words won't fix this, but distance will. People rarely cherish what's always available, but they feel the weight of what they've lost. So if you ever feel taken for granted, don't explain, don't argue, just embrace the quiet. By the way, if you're someone who values deep, thought-provoking insights on Stoicism, self-mastery, and emotional resilience, you'll love what we're building here at Stoic Inner Mind. Subscribe and be part of a community that seeks wisdom over noise, strength over attachment, and clarity over chaos. 1. The silent price of being too available. People don't value what they can access anytime. It's human nature. Scarcity breeds desire, while abundance breeds indifference. Think about it. When was the last time you truly appreciated sunlight, fresh air, or the ability to breathe effortlessly? You don't until they're taken away. The same principle applies to relationships. When you're always the first to text, always ready to listen, always available, people assume you'll always be there. And the moment they stop feeling the need to earn your presence, they stop valuing it. The solution isn't to play games or manipulate, it's to create space, not out of spite, but to restore balance. Start mirroring their energy. If they take hours to respond, don't reply instantly. If they only call when they need something, stop jumping to help. Let them feel your absence. This is how you break the cycle of being taken for granted. And here's the reality. When you pull back, one of two things will happen. Either they'll realize your value and start making an effort, or they won't care, revealing that they were never truly invested in the first place. Either way, you win. I once believed a friend and I were close because we talked every day. But when I looked closer, I saw the pattern. I was always the one reaching out, always the one initiating. So I stopped. Days passed, then a week, nothing. And that silence, it told me everything I needed to know. It wasn't a friendship, it was a one-sided effort. And once I stopped being available, the connection vanished. Did it hurt? Yes. But I also realized this: if my presence had to be sustained by my effort alone, it was never real to begin with. So I let it go. And guess what? They never reached out. That silence was my answer. So how do you prevent this? Set boundaries early. Don't always be the first to text, call, or make plans. Give what you receive. If someone only puts in 50% effort, match it. Stop overcompensating for people who won't do the same. Pay attention to the signs. If someone only contacts you when they need something, don't ignore the pattern. The truth is, respect is earned in your absence, not in your presence. People don't remember what's always available. They remember what they had to earn. If you have to force your presence, you don't belong there. So stop proving your worth to people who wouldn't even notice if you were gone. Because when you finally pull away, you'll realize something powerful. You weren't losing them. They had already lost you. 2. The power of silence. Stop explaining yourself. When someone starts devaluing you, your instinct is to seek clarity. You wonder what changed, what you did wrong, or if they're just going through something personal. You feel the urge to explain yourself. Remind them of your worth and justify your feelings, almost as if convincing them will restore what was lost. But here's the truth. If someone truly valued you, they wouldn't need a presentation on why you matter. If they cared, they wouldn't make you prove it. The moment you start explaining yourself to someone who has already checked out, you don't regain their respect. You lose even more of it. You shift from being an equal to someone trying to earn a place in their life. And once they sense that imbalance, they hold the power while you keep chasing. And the worst part? People who don't value you will rarely give you an honest answer. They won't admit, "Yes, I don't respect you anymore." Instead, they'll say, "I've been busy, but somehow not too busy for others." Nothing's wrong, even though their actions say otherwise. You're overthinking, even though deep down you know you're not. People drift, but they always seem to stay close to those they truly care about. So, how do you handle this? The best response isn't to ask for clarity, it's to observe. If someone changes how they treat you, don't ask why, watch what they do next. If they pull away, don't chase them, give them space and see if they return on their own. If someone stops prioritizing you, don't remind them of your worth. See if they notice your absence. Because when you stop explaining and start observing, you'll realize something. The ones who still care will make an effort. The ones who were done with you will let you go. Either way, you get your answer without having to beg for it. A while back, I had a close friend who started acting distant, no more check-ins, barely any replies, and when we did talk, it felt forced. My first instinct was to ask, "Hey, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong?" But then it hit me. If I had to convince them to stay engaged, the friendship wasn't what I thought it was. So, I stopped reaching out. I stopped explaining. And I waited. Guess what? They never reached out. At first, it hurt. But then came clarity. If someone can forget about you that easily, why should you fight to stay in their life? If they don't notice your absence, why should you work overtime to prove your presence? And that's when I realized something powerful. Sometimes people aren't meant to stay, and that's okay. So, how do you stop this from happening again? Stop seeking closure. If someone doesn't respect you enough to communicate, their silence is your answer. Let their actions speak. If they care, they'll show it. If they don't, they won't. Don't create meaning where there is none. Be okay with silence. Not every situation needs a conversation. Sometimes distance answers everything. Trust energy, not words. People say what's convenient, but they act on what they truly feel. Always believe their behavior. Because here's the deep truth. If someone makes you feel like you have to convince them to treat you right, you've already lost. Your worth should never be something you have to explain or defend. The right people will see it effortlessly. The wrong ones will make you doubt it. The moment you stop chasing, you'll see the difference. So, the next time someone pulls away, don't explain, don't beg, don't plead. Just step back, stay silent, and let the truth reveal itself. Because real respect is never asked for, it's given willingly. 3. Busy is just another word for you're not a priority. When someone starts devaluing you, one of the most common excuses they'll use is, "I've just been really busy." It sounds reasonable, right? Life gets hectic, work, family, responsibilities pile up. But here's the truth. People always make time for what truly matters to them. A quick message, a short reply, a check-in, these take seconds. If someone repeatedly tells you they're too busy, what they're really saying is, "You're not a priority right now. I have time for other things, just not for you. I don't want to put in effort, so I'll blame my schedule." And the hardest part, they don't say this with bad intentions. They don't wake up thinking, "How can I ignore this person today?" It's just that, somewhere along the way, they stopped valuing your presence. So, how do you handle it? Stop listening to their words and start watching their actions. Do they suddenly have time when they need a favor? Do they reply instantly when the topic interests them? Do they make time for new people while leaving you waiting? Because the reality is, when people care, they don't find time, they make time. If someone constantly tells you they're too busy, here's how to respond. Stop initiating. If they truly value you, they'll notice your absence. Match their energy. If they put in minimal effort, do the same. Don't remind them of your worth. If they can't see it, that's their loss, not yours. A few years ago, I had a friend I spoke to every day. Then, out of nowhere, they started saying, "I've just been really busy." At first, I believed them. Life gets in the way sometimes. But over time, I noticed a pattern. They always had time for social media, but never replied to my texts. They were always available when they needed something. They somehow found time for new friendships, but couldn't check in with me. That's when I realized they weren't actually busy. They just didn't prioritize me anymore. So I stopped trying. I stopped reaching out first. And guess what? They disappeared completely. At first it hurt, but then I understood something powerful. People will make time for you if they truly want to, and if they don't, let them go. How to prevent this from happening again? Don't chase attention. If someone is truly busy but cares, they'll still find small ways to stay connected. If they don't, move on. Stop making excuses for people. If someone repeatedly ignores you but has time for others, accept the truth. They don't value you like they used to. Focus on those who reciprocate. The right people will never make you feel like an inconvenience. Trust actions, not words. Someone who truly wants you in their life will never be too busy to show it. The deep message. The next time someone says, "I've just been really busy," don't listen, watch. Because in reality, no one is ever too busy. It's just a question of where you rank on their priority list. 4. Not everyone is meant to stay, and that's okay. One of the hardest truths to accept is that not everyone you care about will care about you the same way. And yet, when we sense someone pulling away, we resist. We fight to keep them in our lives, overextend ourselves, and even tolerate disrespect, just to avoid the pain of losing them. But here's the reality: people don't leave your life by accident, they make a choice. When someone values you, they make an effort. When they don't, they make excuses. The more you try to convince someone to stay, the more they lose respect for you. Trying to hold on to someone who has already checked out, mentally or emotionally, only leads to one thing: self-betrayal. You'll lower your standards. You'll tolerate treatment you never would have before. You'll feel like you have to prove your worth to someone who has already stopped seeing it. But the problem isn't that people leave, the problem is that we refuse to accept it. So, how do you handle it? The moment you stop fearing loss, you take back control of your life. Instead of clinging to relationships that have already run their course, try this. Let them go gracefully. The harder you fight for someone's attention, the less they will respect you. Allow space. If they care, they'll return. If they don't, you have your answer. Shift your focus inward. Instead of asking, "Why are they pulling away?" Ask yourself, do I really want to keep someone in my life who doesn't make me feel valued? Understand that rejection is redirection. When people leave, it's not a loss, it's a lesson. It's the universe clearing space for someone better. Rebuild your confidence. Your worth isn't determined by who stays in your life. It's determined by how you see yourself. I once had a close friend who felt like family. We talked every day, shared struggles, supported each other through everything. But over time, things changed. They started making excuses, responding less, canceling plans. At first, I justified it. They were just going through something, right? So, I reached out more. I tried harder. But the harder I tried, the clearer it became. They weren't invested anymore. And it hurt. At first, I took it personally. Did I do something wrong? Was I not good enough? But then I realized something. People don't drift away by accident. They do it because they've made a decision. And if someone can let you go so easily, why would you fight to keep them? So, I stopped chasing. I stopped over-explaining. I stopped making excuses for them. And guess what? They disappeared completely. And instead of feeling broken, I felt relieved. I was no longer wasting my energy on someone who didn't appreciate it. And in that space, I found better people, ones who valued me effortlessly. How to prevent this from happening again? Stop chasing people. The right relationships are mutual. If someone wants to leave, open the door and let them walk. Recognize when the energy shifts, when someone's behavior changes. Don't ignore the signs. Don't drain yourself trying to fix something that isn't meant to be fixed. Be willing to walk away first. If you sense someone pulling back, don't wait until they completely discard you. Respect yourself enough to leave first. Strengthen your sense of self-worth. People come and go, but your value stays the same. Your confidence should never depend on someone else's validation. Accept that not everyone is meant to stay. Some people are seasonal. They teach you lessons, show you what you deserve, and then exit your life. Let them go with grace. The deep message: you don't lose people, you just find out who's truly meant to be in your life. We often think losing someone is a tragedy, but what's worse is keeping people around who don't value us. So the next time someone starts slipping away, don't beg, don't plead, and don't fight for their attention. Instead, step back and see what happens. If they return, they were meant to be in your life. If they don't, you just saved yourself years of wasted effort. Because the right people, they never make you feel like you have to earn their presence. 5. Reclaim your energy. Shift your focus back to you. When someone starts devaluing you, it's easy to make them the center of your thoughts. You overanalyze their behavior, replay conversations in your head, and constantly wonder, what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? Your mind craves closure, and when someone pulls away, your brain goes into problem-solving mode, desperately searching for answers. But this only leads to overthinking. You obsess over their words, actions, and even their social media activity. Self-doubt. You start blaming yourself, questioning your worth. Emotional dependence. Your happiness becomes tied to their validation. Here's the problem. The more you focus on them, the more power you give them over your emotions. And if they already don't value you, why would you let them control your peace? How to handle it? The key to regaining your confidence is simple. Redirect your energy away from them and back to yourself. Invest in yourself. Instead of wondering why they're acting distant, focus on your own personal growth. Learn a new skill, start a passion project, hit the gym. When you level up, you naturally outgrow people who don't appreciate you. Surround yourself with those who uplift you. Spend time with people who genuinely enjoy your presence. When you're surrounded by real connections, losing one person won't feel like the end of the world. Create new experiences. Book a solo trip, pick up a new hobby, or challenge yourself in ways that remind you of your own independence. Control what you consume. Don't torture yourself by checking their social media or rereading old texts. Unfollow, mute, or distance yourself from anything that keeps you emotionally stuck. The goal isn't to ignore the pain, it's to outgrow it. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a time when I invested too much energy into a friendship that wasn't mutual. I was always the one checking in first, always making the plans, always prioritizing them. But when things changed, when they stopped reciprocating, I fell into a cycle of overthinking and self-doubt. I kept asking myself, did I do something wrong? Should I confront them? Then I had a realization. Why was I giving so much mental energy to someone who clearly wasn't thinking about me? So I made a decision. Instead of obsessing over their absence, I shifted my focus. I started going to the gym more consistently. I took on a personal project I had been putting off. I spent time with people who actually valued my presence, and something unexpected happened. The less I focused on them, the more my self-respect grew. I realized I didn't need their validation. I had just been too distracted to see my own worth. How to prevent this from happening again? Keep your identity separate from your relationships. Never make one person your entire world. Maintain your own interests, goals, and growth. Have a life outside of them. If your happiness depends on one person, losing them will feel like losing yourself. Build a life so fulfilling that no single absence can shake it. Recognize the early signs of imbalance. If you're always the one giving, always the one chasing, take a step back before you're emotionally drained. Focus on self-improvement. The best way to stop obsessing over the wrong people is to become so focused on your own goals that their absence feels irrelevant. Adopt a mindset of abundance. Instead of clinging to one person, remind yourself that there are countless people who will appreciate you effortlessly. The deep message: the more you focus on someone who doesn't value you, the more you forget your own worth. Stop waiting for their attention. Stop hoping they'll change. Stop making them the center of your thoughts. Instead, put yourself first. Build a life that makes you happy. Work on your goals. Surround yourself with better people, and watch how quickly their absence stops mattering. Because at the end of the day, the best revenge is a life so fulfilling that you don't even notice who left. 6. The weakness in playing games. Why passive-aggressive behavior never works. When someone devalues you, it's tempting to react with cold replies, delayed responses, or subtle jabs. You might not want to be openly confrontational, but deep down, you still want them to notice. So, you give one-word answers to make them feel your frustration. You take longer to reply, hoping they'll wonder what's wrong. You post vague quotes on social media that hint at your disappointment. You say, "I'm fine," when you're clearly not. It happens because you're hurt, because you want to regain control. But instead of addressing it directly, you try to make them feel guilty. Here's the problem. Passive-aggressive behavior doesn't make them value you. It makes you look weak. Someone who truly doesn't care will see your silent treatment and simply move on. And even if they do notice, it won't make them respect you. It will make them see you as emotionally immature. How to handle it? If someone is treating you poorly, you have two choices. Communicate directly. If the relationship is important to you, have an honest conversation. No guilt trips, no mind games, just the truth. Detach and move on. If they've repeatedly shown they don't value you, stop wasting your energy trying to make them notice. Your absence should be enough of a statement. Practical steps. Be direct. If something is bothering you, say it calmly and confidently. Example: I've noticed a change in how we communicate. Is something wrong? Be indifferent. If they keep dismissing you, don't waste energy trying to make them feel bad. Instead, shift your focus to people who actually care. Set boundaries. If they take you for granted, don't try to punish them, just naturally distance yourself. The right people will notice your absence. Because emotional maturity is knowing when to speak up and when to walk away, without playing games. I learned this lesson the hard way. I used to think ignoring someone or throwing subtle jabs would make them realize they were hurting me. So, when a friend started acting distant, I mirrored their energy. I stopped replying quickly. I gave cold responses. I posted vague Instagram quotes like, "People show their true colors eventually." And guess what? They didn't care. Instead of making them chase me, it just made me look bitter. And worse, it made me feel powerless. So, I stopped the games. I stopped trying to make them feel guilty and just moved on. And the moment I did that, I realized something. The right people won't make you beg for their attention. Silence is more powerful than passive aggression. Acting unbothered is better than pretending to be okay. How to prevent this from happening again? Stop seeking validation from people who don't reciprocate. If they care, they'll show it. If they don't, no amount of passive aggression will change that. Detach from emotionally immature people. If someone constantly makes you feel like you have to prove your worth, they're not worth your time. Practice emotional control. Don't react out of anger or hurt. Either communicate your feelings clearly or walk away, but never beg for attention through games. Move in silence. Instead of playing mind games, let your actions speak. Distance yourself, focus on your life, and let the results do the talking. The deep message: if someone devalues you, don't try to manipulate them into caring. Don't send mixed signals. Don't waste time trying to punish them with silence or coldness. Instead, be direct or be done. Because real strength isn't about making someone notice you. It's about knowing when to stop caring about people who don't deserve you. 7. No drama, no explanations, just walk away. When someone stops valuing you, your first instinct might be to demand answers, send a long message, or make them feel guilty. You want them to understand the pain they've caused you. You want them to see how much effort you put in. You want them to feel something. But here's the harsh truth. People who no longer value you won't care about your explanation. If they cared, they wouldn't have treated you this way in the first place. If they wanted to fix things, they already would have. If they wanted to stay, you wouldn't be questioning your worth. So why waste your energy trying to convince them to respect you? The moment you start over-explaining, justifying, or trying to prove your value, you hand them all the power. And here's the reality. People don't respect desperation. They exploit it. How to handle it? Instead of reacting emotionally, respond with indifference. No long paragraphs. If someone pulls away, let them. The more you explain, the more desperate you look. No begging for clarity. If someone makes you feel unimportant, you don't need an explanation, you already have your answer. No trying to make them feel guilty. If they truly cared, they wouldn't have made you feel this way in the first place. No emotional outbursts. The less you react, the more control you keep. If you feel the urge to send them a long message, stop. If you want to call them out, breathe. If you want to force a conversation, walk away. Because nothing unsettles people more than silence from someone they expected a reaction from. I learned this the hard way. I used to believe that if I could just explain myself perfectly, people would finally understand my worth. So, when someone I cared about started ignoring me, I did what most people do. I sent a long, emotional message. I poured my heart out. I explained how much I had done for them. I told them I deserved better. And you know what happened? They ignored it. I sat there, waiting for a response that never came. And that's when it hit me. The people who truly care about you don't need an explanation. They already know your worth. So, the next time someone treated me that way, I didn't say a word. No drama, no emotional messages. I just moved in silence. And guess what? That's when they noticed. How to prevent this from happening again. Learn to walk away without a speech. Not everyone deserves closure. If someone disrespects you, let them go without making a scene. Detach emotionally before they detach physically. If you sense someone pulling away, don't cling, start stepping back first. Let silence do the talking. The most powerful response is no response at all. Remember, people don't respect explanations, they respect absence. When you stop explaining yourself, they either realize your value or prove they never cared. The deep message: you don't need to explain your worth. You don't need to convince someone to treat you right. People who truly value you won't put you in a position where you have to question your importance. So, next time someone starts treating you like an afterthought, don't argue, don't beg, don't explain, just walk away. Because real power isn't in convincing someone to care, it's in knowing when to stop trying. The choice that changes everything. At the end of the day, you always have two choices. Keep trying to convince someone to value you, or start valuing yourself enough to walk away. The truth is harsh, but undeniable. People who take you for granted won't suddenly wake up one day and realize your worth. That only happens in movies. In real life, the more you beg for respect, the less you receive. The more you chase, the farther they go. But the moment you stop explaining, stop reacting, and stop proving your worth, everything changes. Some will realize what they've lost and try to come back. Others will disappear completely, proving they were never meant to stay. Either way, you win. Because the right people, they don't need reminders, explanations, or dramatic goodbyes. They see your worth without you having to prove it. The final message: silence is strength. Distance brings clarity. Walking away is self-respect. You are not a backup plan. You are not an afterthought. You are not someone's convenience. The moment you stop chasing others, you start choosing yourself. And that's when everything shifts. So, the next time someone stops valuing you, don't beg, don't argue, don't explain. Just walk away, stay silent, and let the truth reveal itself. Choose yourself, and never forget your worth.